Hello spider fans and welcome back to the Tarantula Cave. Can I just say, you're looking gorgeous today. In this episode we're going to talk about the top 5 orange and black Brachypelma species that I think you should think about adding to your collection. That's right, I know a lot of you watched the top 5 orange and black tarantulas episode, and I'm sure many of you were surprised as to why there weren't any Brachypelma species in there. I think, honestly, it's because when people think of orange and black tarantulas, they all think about Mexican red knees, they all think about their obvious Brachypelma choices, so I didn't want to put those in that video, but because there are so many orange and black tarantulas in the Brachypelma genus, I thought it would be useful for some of you to just have a think about what the other ones might be that aren't just Brachypelma Artem. So that's what this video is about. Because we're talking about Brachypelma, there is one thing that I need to clear up before we get stuck into the video, and that is that some of you won't be aware that Brachypelma smithii, which is the binomial name that was originally given to Mexican red knee tarantulas in the hobby, that name is no longer in use because it turns out that the tarantula we've had in the hobby, according to experts, is actually Brachypelma Artem and not Brachypelma smithii, and you're pretty unlikely to see a Brachypelma smithii in the hobby, particularly in the UK anyway. I don't know if there are any in captive collections in the US, quite possibly. As always, if you're new to this channel, please subscribe, and if you want to get notifications of future videos, you've got to hit the bell icon. Right, let's get stuck in. First up, we've got Brachypelma Artem, the Mexican red knee as we know it in the hobby. It's the iconic tarantula that's been used in so many movies, one of the most beautiful tarantulas in the world no doubt, which is why it's been so popular over the years. Very simple to keep, very easy to keep tarantula. The only thing about Artem is that they are major hair flickers, so you need to be ready for that. Next up is Brachypelma Emilia. This is quite a chunky Brachypelma, so it makes for a great display tarantula. I have one of these, I absolutely love it. It's one of my favourites in my collection just because of its colours. Mine in particular is quite quick to flick urticating hairs when it gets disturbed, but I know other people have very calm ones and they may well chill out as they get older. Here's another absolute beauty, the Brachypelma Artem. It has amazing red, orange, bright knees that give it a really striking appearance. It's not as commonly seen in the hobby as some of the other Brachypelma species, and I don't have experience with it myself, but I have read that they can be quite skittish, and like most Brachypelma, when they're cornered they will flick urticating hairs. This next species, Brachypelma Baumgartenii, is less commonly seen, certainly in the UK. I've never seen one in the flesh knowingly, and that includes going to various spider shows. It's another of the more colourful Brachypelmas in terms of having orange pretty much for the full extent of its legs, apart from the femurs, and that black carapace is really awesome, so one to definitely check out. This is perhaps the queen of the orange and black tarantulas, Brachypelma BoaMe. Yeah, crazy orange legs, black femurs, orange carapace, beautiful kind of orangey red hairs coming out through the abdomen. It's a really stunning species and you can see why it's so popular. One of the big downsides is it's definitely the worst for kicking hairs, so not for handling. One thing you'll have noticed is that I didn't use any common names for any of the Brachypelma species we just looked at. That's because I think the common names are very confusing for this genus, particularly for the orange and black ones. So to give you them, Brachypelma Artem is obviously the Mexican red knee. Brachypelma Emilia is the Mexican red leg. Brachypelma Artem is the Mexican flame knee, Brachypelma Baumgartenii is the Mexican orange beauty, and Brachypelma BoaMe is the Mexican flame leg. No, Mexican fire leg. See, even I'm getting confused. Basically, there's a reason that the binomial names are used by a lot of people in the hobby, and it's to make it easier to know what you're talking about, because the difference between talking about a Mexican fire leg and a Mexican red leg is quite significant. Whereas if you're talking about a Brachypelma Emilia versus a Brachypelma BoaMe, people will know what you're talking about a bit more clearly. In overview, the Brachypelma genus is very easy for beginners, I guess, to look after, because their requirements are quite basic. You know, you just need, they're all terrestrial and they're terrestrial and opportunistic burrowers. So when they're younger, they tend to burrow more. When they're older, they tend to be out in the open more. So when they're younger, a deeper substrate would be helpful. But ultimately, you're talking about a layer of substrate, providing a hide, providing a water dish, ventilation in the enclosure just to prevent humidity building up too much and allow ventilation of air. And that's really it. And then they live for ages, you know, up to sort of 20 plus years. So it's a really good investment. I know a lot of them seem to be quite, I guess they're mid-range to expensive, depending on who you buy them from. And that can put some people off. But when you think about how long they live, it's definitely a worthy investment. For me, I'm not a huge fan of Brachypelmas, although I do have several. I mean, I do have the Emilia, and I do have a lot of Brachypelma albopilosum, the Honduran curly hair, not featured in this video, but featured in many of my other videos. But I just don't really like tarantulas that kick loads of urticating hairs, and in my experience, most of the Brachypelma genus, like most of the Brachypelmas I've kept, every single one of them will kick hairs pretty readily. And I don't know if I've just got an angry bunch or not, but it makes for a less fun time when you're trying to just do maintenance. But that said, most people don't react that badly to the hairs, and they are very, very, very beautiful tarantulas. So I do think they have a very, very firm place in the hobby and within people's collections. And I probably will at some point get a Mexican red knee, just because I feel I should have one in my collection. But yes, hopefully I've given you some food for thought. Hopefully you enjoyed this sort of little summary of the orange and black Brachypelma species, and I will see you next time.